Feel that fire, I did that, I did that. Watch it burn, I did that, I did that. Oh, oh. Feel the fire, I did that, I did that. Oh, oh. Watch it burn, I did that, I did that. Oh, because some bridges were meant to be burned, meant to be burned. Some bridges were meant to be burned. So burn, 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 burn. Nothing but a few burned bridges. Burn, burn. Oh, 'cause some bridges were meant to be burned, meant to be burned. Some bridges were meant to be burned. So burn, burn, burn. Nothing but a few burned bridges. Burn, burn. Thank you.
Dr. Ernest Holmes taught that man has learned, and women, have learned enough through suffering. My observation is that that's not really true, otherwise we'd be done with it. So I think it's really a good idea to take the suffering and the ideas and the thoughts and the beliefs and the opinions, the conclusions, all the decisions we've made about ourselves, life, other people, and our relationship with all of that stuff, put it on that flippin' bridge. It's better than a burning bowl. So this pagan died, and she found herself standing before the pearly gates. And St. Peter was standing there, and he said, "Hello, welcome." And she looked at him confused and says, I don't really understand. This is supposed to be the Summerlands, which is the place where pagans go. And he said, you must be one of our pagan sisters. Follow me. And so he gestures with his hand, and she follows him. And they wandered down the hill and off to the left a little bit and go for a while. And all of a sudden, he stops and he steps aside and he motions, he gestures for her to continue looking ahead of them. And there before her were verdant fields and valleys and wildflowers and forests and people dancing and laughing and enjoying the merriment of their Summerlands. And she said, and she's shaking her head in amazement. It's even better than she had imagined, much less better than she had even expected. And as she's looking at it and enjoying the revelry and everything, she happened to look off to one side, and there was a small group of people way away from the pagans dancing and frolicking, and off over on the side, and they're kind of wailing and they're moaning and they're screaming and they're gnashing their teeth, and I mean, they're a mess, they're upset. And she says, "Who are those people?" And St. Peter says, "They're fundamentalists." And she said, "Well, why are they carrying on like that? Don't they have anything better to do?" And he says, "Well, actually, no, they don't. See, actually, they're in hell, and they're just really upset when they see you guys over here frolicking, having fun and everything like that, but they're in hell observing all this. That's why they're so upset, because you see, God doesn't really like being told what she thinks." So those notions of hell that you may have brought forward with you from the past, I encourage you to put those on that bridge too. All of that nonsense that's short of the good, the great, the possible, the joyous, the love-filled, the harmonious, all of that stuff. You can call it dis-ease, you can call it hate, you can call it war. I don't care what you call it. It's all the same stuff. It's a misunderstanding of the truth. And do we in this world of form have those forms of opposition around us? Yeah, we do. But we don't have to participate in them. One of the classic lines of the positive mental attitude movement and New Thought, the best thing you can do for poverty is not participate. And it's very easy to do that, isn't it? So, what it does. The infinite finds its way into the world through the channel of our own minds. That's the bottom line message of the third chapter of The Science of Mind, the book written by Dr. Ernest Holmes back in the late 30s. And it really captures the philosophy of this particular teaching. So when you talk to people and they say, "Where do you go to church?" He says, "Well, where I go it's really a center for spiritual living." Well, what do you guys teach? A philosophy, a way to think about life that helps us improve our life and our experiences in it. Do you have a dogma? No. Do you have a creed? No. We just do our best to love ourselves and love other people. Yeah. And sometimes that's really hard. Yeah, huh? Sometimes it's incredibly hard. And when we change our minds about how we look at life, and starting with looking at ourselves, we can change our minds about how we look at life and everything that's in it, like I mentioned before, and all of a sudden we start experiencing life in that particular way. So this particular chapter, I have a couple of quotations to share with you, but this particular chapter helps move from the first week of the month, talking about the thing itself, when Carol talked about what God is according to your own definition. So when you talk about God, you're talking about your God. Be very clear. Nobody's talking about the same God. Everybody has a different notion, experience, and opinions about all that. And so there's no one God in the sense that they're all defined the same. There's just one life, one presence, one power, one love. And you can call it God. And the bigger it is, the better chance you have of being able to expand into it. So the first quote, "The divine mind is infinite. It contains all knowledge and wisdom, but before it can reveal its secrets, it must have an outlet." So it sits there waiting in potential to be understood, to be realized. And this outlet we shall be compelled to supply if it is to manifest itself through our own receptive mentalities. Are you open? Do you buy into Rick's song, "I Surrender"? Do you buy into possibility itself? See, therein lies the challenge. A lot of people come to this teaching and they, "Oh my God, it's a silver bullet. It's going to save me from all of my travail." Nonsense. It will not save you from anything. When I speak of the philosophy, I say it saved my life. But the fact of the matter is, it didn't save my life. It gave me the tools so I could pick my butt up off my laziness and change my own life. Starting with the way I thought about life. So one of the challenges of this philosophy is people say, change your thinking, change your life. Some get offended. Why? There's nothing wrong with my thinking. Well, are you happy? Do you feel whole? Do you have harmony in your life? Do you experience a positive evolution going on around you and in you and as you? Maybe a little brainwashing would be good. I joke about brainwashing. You know, some people's brains probably could use a good wash, but bottom line, this is not brainwashing. This is you changing your own mind. We do not teach you what to think, but rather how to think, how really to think, so that you end up having more of this good. It's through our receptive mentalities, which in some cases are not all that receptive. Have you ever been attached to a previous opinion about yourself? Maybe that opinion was given to you by another. They're so willing to share. It's like, what's wrong with you? I thought I was doing okay. We are surrounded by a mind or intelligence, this is Holmes again, that knows everything. The potential knowledge of all things exists in this mind. So we live in this mind, according to Holmes, those are his words. We live in this mind that we have access to, and it contains everything. Every thought thunk, every conclusion drawn, every decision made, all the emotions and feelings that might have happened. It contains everything. It contains all the abstractions and theories and possibilities, all the philosophies, everything, including the things and the not things, the blueprints to have things made and to make things. It includes all of that. The abstract essence of beauty, as an example, and truth and wisdom coexist in the mind of the universe. We also exist in it and may draw from it. So where do you get your good ideas from anyway? My mother, my spouse, they have really good ideas. Honey. Of course, and so we tend to think we get our ideas from outside of us, and yet we also know and recognize there are some ideas that come from within us. And I'm here to tell you, all those ideas come from that divine mind in which we all live, move, and have our being. All of us. We exist in it, and we can draw upon it. But what we draw from it, we must draw through the channel of our own minds. It's been said in varying and sundry different ways that you cannot see over your own head. That what you perceive is already inside of you. And there's a possibility that you can see beyond that into the greater yet to be and get a sense of that next thing, that other thing. And the more you spend time with it, that other thing, that sense starts taking shape more and more in our lives. So this class that we're doing on Monday nights, Visioning, is really about learning how to surrender into that greater yet to be. Surrender into a greater idea. Now, how easy is it for you to just boldly go into, you have no clue. Monday night, someone shared, my stomach gets all tied up in knots. Well, that's a very common experience because, we like to know what the heck's going on. So we're much better off with a devil we know than the one we don't know. That's why people stay stuck in unhealthy relationships. While they stay in jobs they absolutely detest and feel diminished in, and so on and so forth. Because at least we know where that's going. So to surrender into the greater is a challenge, and we end up having to surrender the previous, put it on that bridge, light it, turn the other cheek, so to speak, and walk into a new life. How easy is it to do that? Sometimes not so easy. So that's what's helpful about having a community in which, one, we can find out about it, two, we can spend some time being with that, how that might best be for us and how we might like to experience that, and to share and be shared with so we understand a little bit more about how much potential we live in. That's interesting, to be able to stand in that potential. Alvin Toffler, who wrote Future Shock 100,000 years ago now, some of you may remember the book, some of you may never even heard of it. But in there, he's got a line that I think is so valuable. The illiterate of the 21st century, by the way, we're there, will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. What are you unwilling to unlearn? The most obvious one might be, I'm willing to unlearn how people are, because you know how they are. It's like that bumper sticker, life was going great today, and then people. And we're people too. It's like the mom and the daughter were driving along, and mom's getting frustrated with the traffic, and she pounds her hand on the steering wheel, and she says, people, people, people. And her little daughter says, Mommy, but you're a people too. We are in that muck together. How many of you have heard the story about this old fish was swimming along? And these two young fish came and met this fish, and as they greet and say hello, the old fish says, hey boys, how's the water? And continues swimming along, and the other fish, the young fish, they swim by, and finally they stop, and one of them says to the other, hey, what the hell's water? Because they don't even realize what they already are in, what they're swimming in, the life that surrounds them. They don't know about that. A philosopher once said, I don't know who discovered water, but you can very well be rest assured that it was not a fish. Because they're in it. How many things in your particular culture are just, that's the way it is, we don't even think about it, we're not even aware of it. One of my favorite experiences, I'm in high school, in a sociology class, and the teacher says, you will reproduce what your parents have done. And I said, no way. Absolutely not. I'm absolutely certain it would not happen to me. Yeah. Then you have a kid. I swore I'd never do that. Not have a kid, but not treat them the way I had been treated. Because I'm conscious. I'm on to me. And it's automatic. It's the sea in which we live. It's the water in which we swim. And the same is true with regard to everything in our lives. It's the water that we have lived in forever, and to change our experience of that water is no minor feat. So I honor all of you who have worked in this philosophy and this teaching to actually change your experience and become conscious of the water you're in so that you have a different experience of it. And the possibilities expand. You're in an ocean, and some people think they're in a pond because that's all they know. They've gone to the edge of the aquarium, and that's it. All the studies that have been done, psychology studies and sociology studies about put a clear sheet in the aquarium, and they keep bumping against it, so they just stop, and after a while, they remove the sheet, and they actually put food on the opposite side of the sheet, and the fish starves to death because it doesn't think it can get to the food. It just stops there. It's the glass ceiling that we talk about a lot in human experiences. Here and now, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. Those of you who have spent a lot of time around me back 12, 15 years ago have heard this quotation many times, so much so that I would start saying it in church on Sundays, and people would finish the quote for me. That's good news. So, here and now, we're surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. How much of this infinite good is ours? All of it. And how much of it may we have to use? As much as we may embody. Okay, so here's the secret of this teaching, if there is one. 1, there's no secret. 2, it's straightforward. Changing our minds is not an easy thing, but we access more divinity, more of that possibility, more of the infinite to the degree that we can change our minds. You already know how to change your mind. It's just a matter of which subject are you going to change from and put your attention on. 3, this takes practice. That's why we teach principles and practices that you can learn how to stay onto you and catch yourself sooner rather than later, when you're not bumping into that invisible shield anymore, and there's food there, there's nurturance there, there's satisfaction there, and all of a sudden you just take a chance and try it anyway, and there's no resistance, no obstacles. What if you changed your point of view about obstacles? Obstacles are considered to be negative, thwarting, etc., etc. Back in the PMA movement of the late 70s and 80s, an obstacle was not a problem, but an opportunity. So what if we look at all thwartings, all apparent obstacles, all problems as those opportunities? They're like angel-provided opportunities. The Jews even have a way of thinking about angels. There are 2 kinds of angels. There's the angel who nurtures and supports and helps you and nurtures and sustains you, if you will, holds you up when you're feeling not so hot. And there's the other kind of angel that will meet you on the road and kick your butt because you're going down someplace that's not going to be all that marvelous. Those kinds of angels have been my best friends over the last years, over most of my life, because I seem to have found a lot of them. And so you too may find yourself challenged with these obstacles when in fact it's an opportunity to learn something about yourself, an opportunity to grow in a way that you at this point in time have not chosen to grow, an opportunity to rethink how you're holding this scenario, this situation, that kind of person or that kind of work. It's an opportunity. By changing our minds, by as much of it as we can embody, by literally expanding our ability to embody, to experience possibility in a whole new light. What would happen if you just chose to think of you as infinite, inside and out, that there is this constant, ever yet to be unfolding, we call that evolution, this constant yet to be that's ever unfolding to be greater and more marvelous and more beauteous and more richer in every possible way. Could you stand it if your life was so glorious, so magnificent, that you couldn't help but beam in joy? With that, think about it. With that, literally let it settle into you. And with that, may you be blessed. And now we come into that point that's more contemplative and prayerful, where what we do is we spend some time in the presence itself. So as I speak my word and we do our spiritual mind treatment this morning in support of this idea, I invite the practitioners to come forward. And much like we did last week, we're going to do the wall of prayer again. There were so many, people were still lined up when I stopped it. Come on. Access these people. They're here for you. They're here to support you. They're here to remind you of a different way of looking at and holding your particular life and how you think about it and how you choose to embrace it. So they already are getting into the state of mind that assists them in speaking the truth about you. Your job when you come forward to them is you walk up and you speak quietly, because it's just between you and them. It's actually between you and God. They're a channel, if you will. And you speak your desire. Story is not relevant. You speak your desire of the end result that you would like to experience. And let them know for you and speak their word of truth about you and that experience. It won't take them long. So if you'd like, you may come forward, and I will bring this to a close at the end by starting our community prayer for the morning. So let's pray together, shall we? There is but one life. And I know that life as God's life, as whole, as perfect, as complete in every regard. And as these individual booster shots continue, I speak my word for this whole community. And in the speaking, it ripples out across the planet. At that one life, I also know as my life and the life of everyone. All life exists in that one life. So the peace, the ease, the healing, the true experience of wholeness naturally starts to manifest in the life of each one. I know that joy becomes smiles on faces. I know that the ease resides throughout the body, through every cell of the body, and into the interactions between all people. I know the peace it just takes over. It becomes each person. And I know that perfection, that nothing could possibly be missing from anyone. The realization of that perfection settles in. And the error of something missing dissolves, simply in the light of day. So with joy filling my heart, that lets me know that I'm in a state of gratitude, I simply let these words be. I let this process go, and I naturally, easily, effortlessly step into the flow of living in accordance with Him. So knowing it is so, together we affirm it and let it be by saying, and so it is.